All right. Good morning, Glenn. It's Coach Wildman here from Volleyball Coaches of Canada. You know, you're joining us from Turkey. How are things over there right now? And has everything come to a dead stop regarding the leagues and whatnot? And is there any sort of light at the end of the tunnel moving forward with this situation that we're in?
Well, France announced today that they were not the league wasn't going to keep going, so we're the last league that still has maybe a possibility, but I think they were waiting for the Ministry of Sport to give the final word on all the sports actually.
Right.
So we expect an announcement anytime now.
Anytime. Yeah, no, so obviously quite disappointing with 2020 Olympics getting postponed, but at least they're not canceled. So there is side to that. I was able to watch a lot of the matches that were in Vancouver on TV. Can you take us through that? Sorry, I'm just drawing a blank here. What was the game that went to 5? That was the second to last big one. That was Cuba, wasn't it?
Against Cuba.
Yeah. So can you take us through that game? Because that was kind of the make or break game to give you guys that opportunity to get to the Olympics in the first place, right? So.
Yeah. So, well, actually, the preparation up to the qualifier was really good in Gatineau with the players for 3 weeks. Everybody was really, really focused. We were ready when we hit the tournament.
Right.
The first match went fairly well. I think we beat Mexico and we played at a really good level.
Yeah.
Second match, we knew the main match would be Cuba. We expected it to be the match, the decisive match kind of thing to get to the Olympics. So we prepared that one really well. I think it had like 20 pages of information on it. So it was quite the preparation, and we were ready. And the team actually was playing okay, but both teams are playing really well. And Cuba made some key digs in the first set, and we struggled with our attack a little bit. We actually struggled with our attack all game long. I just recently went back to the match and kind of started it and looked at it, and just to look forward on what we can improve before the Olympic Games. And part of the problem was our attack. Cuba is a very good blocking team, and they're actually a good defending team.
Yeah.
And Sorry. Yeah.
No. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah. No, I agree with you. They're good. Yeah.
So one aspect. I think what made the difference eventually is like we struggled scoring on hard-driven stuff, and they trained that way. They're really good attackers, or they're used to digging, blocking the hard-driven stuff. What they're not good at is everything that's a change-up. And we had told the guys that everything that we had studied them, and everything that we put in zone 1, every ball that we would put there created difficulty. Either would score points on it, or you would have an opportunity to transition. You wouldn't score on every one of them, but you see they struggle. And when we made the change, we made up with players, and we started doing just that.
Right.
And we started putting balls to one, and eventually we just grinded them down. They actually tried to make some adjustment defensively to try to move their game up, their defense up. And then we started to chip off the hand because we saw it. We were able to make the adjustment quickly. So, these kind of games you don't win easily. Like, it was a real battle.
Oh, well, for sure.
It was
yeah.
a huge amount of exchanges. Where we made the difference was our serve block defense. We only missed 9 serves in 5 sets. We scored 7 aces, and we were able to battle for about, I think we served 110 balls. And we only missed 9. So you can imagine we battled a lot. We had 45 digs total and 19 blocks. We outblocked Cuba by 19-8, I think.
Right.
So that's what made the difference. It was a real grind, a real patience game, but you didn't feel any panic in the group at any time.
No.
Like, the guys just said, okay, they're playing good. Let's just keep going. And we those small adjustments, like I said, trying to get that opposite to work a little bit more on defense and to exploit that position. Then started getting it into their heads. And after the third set, I think the score was pretty net, I think 25-14 or something like that. And I think they took it hard there, like psychologically. And our team was starting to roll. You could see, like, it was kind of fun actually to look at it a second time, but from taking time to analyze the whole game. I did that just last week. So.
Yeah, I think visually from what I saw on TV in that game specifically was you guys definitely kept your composure throughout the whole game. The fans were a bit quiet in set 2 and 3 type of thing, but once it started going, everyone was going crazy, and you can really see the frustration from the Cuban team on their faces, and how they even came together as a team. They were very disconnected, very, kind of pointing fingers, if you will, at each other, in certain situations. So it was an exciting match. I'm glad it was televised. I'm glad there was a ton of people there. So, you go on to the next match to win the entire thing that gives you your berth into the Olympics. Everyone's excited. And now, obviously, this whole situation with COVID-19 happens. How's the team taking it? How's the staff taking it? How do you keep your composure in this time so that you guys are prepared for 2021?
Yeah. So it is really hard. I think it's hard on everyone, but the whole group, the whole staff started working right away on planning and trying to create scenarios, because it affects the players in many ways. The fact that they detrain very fast, like they came out of leagues, came home right away, so they're getting ready for playoffs, so they're at their best. And then all of a sudden they get shut down. You got to stay home. They can't hit the weight room. They can. So our IST group, our integrated support team, which is all the specialists, Cal Paquette, our mental performance coach, Michael Cook, our strength and conditioning coach, Kerry McDonald, who oversees the group, Tracy Chapman, our physio, and Melissa. Everybody got going, and Eric Sabresno, our nutritionist, send us out of conference with the guys what you should be eating, although you're not training as much, but you can take care of yourself by doing this. Mike, our strength coach, had some programs for the guys obviously with limited equipment, but right away he got on a call with the guys and sent the program. We have some rehab stuff that they have to do during the week. Some mental conditioning, like mental coaching that Kyle has sent, different things that the guys have to read and do some meditation and really try to also give them perspective about what's happening. From the technical staff, from me, Dan, and Gino, we really what we did basically is look at a plan. I think I calculated about 60 weeks to the next Olympics.
Yeah.
To the 23rd of July, 2021. So what we did is we look at all the different scenarios.
Okay.
And then are we going to have anything this summer? If we don't have anything, what's the next scenario? Are some of the guys, are some of the leagues, are they starting? Are we going to have guys in the center? Are we so there's all kinds of different scenarios. So we try to plan for each of them. And then as we go, we find out more, then we can solidify the plan, because right now it's really all about scenarios.
Right. So with everyone back home, or for the most part, do you guys have, kind of team check-ins through like video meetings or Zoom meetings or stuff like that on a weekly basis, or how does that work?
Yeah, so some of the guys, I know that some of the guys are throwing challenges in there. Like, there's one is a meditation challenge that they have together. They do have check-ins that they do all year. Like they even before the crisis, they do check-ins as a small group and talk about what's coming, about the games, and about what they can do better and how they can improve. They do that regularly.
Got it. Yeah.
Even before the crisis, Kyle had that implemented early, and the group is really good that way. Eric Sabresno, our nutritionist, had a whole. I was on the. Well, I wasn't. I saw the video after they posted it, and he had about a 30-minute meeting. What is it we can do during that time? What we need to make sure that we get from a nutrition perspective. And then Michael Cook had a meeting with them as well for all the training. So the guys, it's going to be hard. We can't say that it's going to be easy because these guys are used to train a lot. Their livelihood is also, it's their livelihood. Like they train, they need to stay in shape because they need to be ready for their pro leagues and they need to perform in those pro leagues. So for sure there'll be some challenges, I think, if this stretches on. But we're gonna try to do our best, really, as staff and IST to try to help them as much as we can. Really.
Fair enough. So, coaches that are just checking in right now, feel free to ask questions. The first question was from Fraser McLeod from Manitoba. He's living here in Calgary. Has a team called Elite West. I'm sure you know him. Can you elaborate on the mental training you have them doing during the COVID break? I know you just touched base on this, but is it, if you can, this is from Fraser. So anything more elaborate?
Well, because Kyle had them working on different aspects of their mental training, probably they have certain things. I'm not aware of everything, but I know in general he sends things about how we deal with this. We've sent some interesting podcasts, for example, from Ryan Holiday, and stoicism and how they deal with these crises. There's some really good tips in there. And then they have their own individual check-in. Probably some of them have individual check-in with Kyle. I know they do so, and really it's about a little bit living with that unknown and living with uncertainty and controlling what we can now and what is it that we can do now that will help us perform later. So is it watching video of us playing or watching video of future teams that we're going to play in Tokyo? So I think Kyle would orient his work that way. That's what we've talked about, and see what can we do to attain a podium performance. So we need to look at what went well, for example, against Cuba, which what I did, and then what didn't go so well, and then what will be our plan so that individually we can enhance our performance when we get back in the gym. So if we create awareness right now, then it'll be easier when we get in the gym. Your mission will be to improve your receive against spin serve or float serve. Your mission will be to have a better black set. Your mission will be, everybody will know what they have to do. So this is what we're doing right now, and I think Kyle also has them. I think it would be for young athletes. It would be more pertinent, in the sense that what do I need to improve? If coaches can help them, then they can start looking at and get ready for that moment. When that moment comes, when I go back to the gym, I know exactly what I need to do.
So is there anything right now regarding ball touches? I mean, you can only do so much in your living room or your garage or your backyard. Yeah. So is there anything that, we can sit here and sit on our couches and set a ball above our head as much as we want, but there's only so much that's going to do. So is there anything that you've gotten creative on, or the athletes have got creative on trying to just sort of keep, some sort of ball touches in this COVID-19?
I haven't seen anybody, I haven't seen any video of the guys doing it. But yeah, you're right. It's pretty limited. I've seen some funny things physically. I've seen Daniel Jansen Van Dorn do deadlifts with a wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
And there's been stuff like that circulating that was pretty funny. So, but from a ball perspective, it's really, really tough. Yeah, there's not a lot they can do apart from, like you said, doing individual or Or maybe with another partner at a certain distance, but you would have to change the ball every time.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a weird time for sure. So I got a question here from a gentleman named Andre. Canada has a very strong pool for players and a very strong national team. Why do you think a pro league like they have in Europe doesn't exist in Canada or the U.S., or is it on its way potentially?
Yeah, I don't know. Like traditionally Olympic sports in Europe, like handball and volleyball, have been. Look, it's in the club tradition that they have in Europe. So initially those leagues were just sports leagues. They weren't pro leagues. They became pro leagues. I think in the mid '80s. They started around the early '80s, and then it got more and more professional. I think we have a lot of traditional sports already here where sponsors are oriented towards, like baseball, hockey, football. Volleyball, it's funny because volleyball, like every time we have BNL matches or every time we've had matches in Canada, the sport's always been, fans always seem to like it. So I don't know, there's been some attempts done in the US, but I don't know. I think just because the traditional sport are so well implanted that it would be hard, I think, to get sponsorship and get enough money to keep the players here.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to money, and the U.S. is going to make this happen before Canada does, just based on their resources and the sponsor here. We're going to skip all over the place because coaches are asking questions and whatnot. Looking for your opinion. We have implemented triple ball at the entry level because serving is so unstable in 11 to 13-year-olds. But when Tom Black was on the series, he said that the serve receive were the skills that dictate success at all levels. And that is anything that, what are your thoughts on this regarding triple ball and early learning in club?
Yeah, I've seen some. I think it was when I was in Winnipeg, and I remember going to a high school match and seeing it was a women's game, and often at that age you've got the more mature athlete that's got a really good serve, and basically it was just, I think, at the bantam age or that age where the court seemed so big and the six girls seemed so small, and basically that server served for the whole set without any action happening. So there wasn't huge improvement there or potential improvement for receive because there was basically no receive. Like it was this very mature girl came up to the line and do serve until she missed, and then they were able to rotate out. So I think yes, I agree with Tom that receive is one of the most important skill, if not the most important, especially for the offense. But then again, like if you don't get to touch the ball and learn at least the basic movement of the passing, the form, the feeding of it, the leg position, then it's difficult to teach. Like you can, I think it's important also that the game becomes somewhat fun too. Like if it's a blowout every time, I don't think the team that can be very proud of winning because we're serving really well, but are you winning because you're playing really well, or just because the other team is really, really weak, and are you learning anything from that? So I kind of like at that age anyway that with triple ball you can even out a little bit the odds, so that at least you work a little bit on some skills and can put some pressure on the better team. So
yeah, like Volleyball BC has done something. They've started actually a U12 league, and they actually bring in the back line. I think 3 or 4 feet or 5 feet type of thing. So they shrink the court lengthwise, and it's I got a chance to watch it, and I was like, oh, what's this all about? And if they miss their serve, then they throw a ball in either way type of thing. So it's like gives them the opportunity to show success. And then if it doesn't work out, then they throw a ball in so they still get the reps and the passing and the first contact and all that stuff. So I know each province is kind of doing their own thing and testing different things. as the national team coach, you've been very open with your playbook and have changed how volleyball is done in Canada for the positive. What would you like to see from all provincial associations? Would it be kind of like all on the same, doing the same thing at the same age groups? Or, if you had a chance to change something so that when the players get to your level or university level or college level, we're not trying to reteach things that should have been taught type of situation?
Yeah. I think whatever you do, make sure you measure. Make sure that, don't do something because, if it's about winning by Friday at the age of 11 or 12, and then, I have nothing against it, but volleyball is a very hard, it's one of the hardest sports to learn skill-wise. Like you got 5 or 6 skills that you have to implement in a matter of a few seconds, or a split second.
Right.
And you got to play with others, and you got rhythm, you have to synchronize your offense, and it's super hard. So skills become super important. If you don't master skills, it's hard to execute anything. So whatever you implement, make sure that you measure, and if it works, then keep it. That would be my message. Like in the end, here in Turkey, because with my club, I work with a lot of coaches, and we have kids from the age of 7 right up to the senior team, both women and men. And I always thought the coaches, are you measuring, like what you're doing? Are you measuring the efficiency of what you're doing, or could you do it a different way and then get a better result? And sometimes, like they'll have 10 girls waiting in line, one after the other, and bumping balls. Like you're getting one contact, every 10 people. So could you organize your drills so that, and so on, so whichever people choose, you got to make sure that you see if it's working. Measure. Always measure. I always repeat that to my coaches. Make sure that you measure what you're doing, because otherwise you're going to be doing the same thing. You're going to wonder why things are not working, because you're doing the same thing over and over again. So, so it doesn't really matter what you choose as a tool, but make sure that if you apply that tool at a given age or girl or boy, that tool is working, and you're getting you're reaching the goals that you're setting for yourself.
Right.
Skills is important. In volleyball, you'll have a lot of fun. If your skills are good, you can play some really good things. You can move very fast, and the sport becomes more and more fun. I loved our game against Cuba just because I'm crazy about block defense. For me, digging and the guys were like outstanding in that game, and it was fun to watch. And so, and the more young athletes and skilled athletes we have coming at the higher level, then the better results we will get, but also, the more fun our athletes will have too.
Yeah, I had an opportunity. I had John Kessel from USA Volleyball up in Calgary about a year ago, and he showed me a video, and I don't know where, it was from the Philippines, and he was like, how old do you think these kids are? And they were like jump serving and just cracking on the ball, and they were like U10. It was like absolutely insane, the skill level that they're at. And, for me, I would love to see, like Volleyball BC's kind of ahead of the wave on the U12 thing, but I would like to see U11, U10 eventually. Obviously, if that's happening, there's growth in the game. Fraser McLeod, my boy here, has another question. You have mentioned in the past that you test your players not just on physical skills over a season, but on volleyball skills as well. Can you elaborate on how you do that?
Testing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just did that when I was doing the Cuba match, and I haven't changed this. I evaluate after each match, doesn't matter pro or with the national team, is I compile my own stats. I actually evaluate every touch on the ball by every player, and I quote it, and then from there, it just gives me a clear picture of what I have to work on. Doesn't matter if we win or lose. Like our offense wasn't working great against Cuba. We didn't have great numbers. we won the game, but we didn't have great numbers. So how can I? But if I wouldn't look at it and say and ask myself and see that it wasn't working well, and then ask myself why it wasn't working well, then I wouldn't be able to set the future goals for the team, and then maybe that being probably trying to get to a podium performance. We cannot do it with the attack that we had against Cuba. We need better attack than that. So that will be one of the goals that we'll set. So for Fraser's question is that I basically have performance indicators for every touch on the ball, from attack to passing. Even I evaluate free ball, the plus minus. And then this always, it's simple. It's just focusing on the process. So by measuring them, I know that I need, okay, here's why he's not attacking well today. Is it because he's not attacking well today, or is it because he's not getting good sets, or sets with only a lot of blockers? Then I need to intervene somewhere along that chain, maybe with the attacker. Okay, you've got to be better at hitting against 2-3 blockers, or it's my setter that's not giving him the right ball in the right situation, and so on, and then, so I quote my players like this, and also I always have my pen with me, and as I watch the match unfold and do these kind of individual skill evaluation, I ask myself why, always, because the pure number can be, a guy can be in a bad day on attack, and you look at the pure stats and say, boy, he didn't attack very well. Yeah, but he didn't attack well, but he didn't get the situations he was in weren't very good. So obviously that's what affected the numbers. So it's not necessarily him, or it could be him.
Right.
And that's why it's so important to measure all the time. In all aspects, it is painstaking, but it's. I'm a planner. I like to plan. I like to always look forward. So you need to start with something. So your performance indicators, not the score, but the actual performance of your athlete, help you decide what you're going to do for the next step.
Yeah. Now, so Volleyball Canada is kind of they had an app called Vert. And that Vert app, you put it on, your shorts or your socks or whatever, and it gives you a kind of a graph of impact and stuff like that. Do you guys use any stuff like that? To make sure there's only a certain amount of jumps per practice, and stuff like that.
Yeah. So we use Vert also here at my club.
Okay.
And with my assistant, I have a Slovenian assistant. He's not here this season, but we've been working together for 10 years. This guy's a real loves to study and stuff. So with the Espetar Institute of Qatar, we joined other clubs across the world, and we did a big study with all the numbers of matches, and so the number of jumps, the height of the jump by per position, and then he and my assistant was able to establish a kind of it was a grade. Like, so we had it's on my practice sheet. I have this. So middles will jump in 5 sets. They jump 110 jumps in a 3-set match, an average of, and then that would determine kind of it's not 100% of volume. 100% of volume would be a 5-set match, but it gives you a gauge when you're training the guys on the number of impact that they have compared to the match. And we use it a lot. You just have to consider that a match has more rupture, meaning, okay, you serve in the net, then you walk back on the court. If in practice you're running a wash, then your frequency of action is much higher.
Yeah.
So, it's a little bit, you have to look at it differently, but it's a good gauge. It gives us good numbers, to manage your athlete.
Ryan Marsden, got a question here. Ryan Marsden, you know who he is, obviously.
Very well.
Are you noticing that our Canadian volleyball players are becoming more skilled technically by the time they reach your level than compared to years ago? Be careful how you answer this.
Yeah. I I agree. Yeah, I think so. I think that the players are much more skilled than we were, and they're way more aware. I don't know. I think our coaching is better across the country. I think the awareness about skills and you can see that now, like players are able to play faster, like hitting faster sets, delivering faster sets. So I don't know if it's the fact that with more social media, with more capacity to access the game and to see more, I think the players are really themselves learning or willing to try more things just because they see it happen. So it's really so I think it's a combination of both, like the fact that you see more of it, and then the fact that our coaches are really really good, and it's getting better, and
totally
we got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the world is always looking at improving, so we got to keep doing the same thing and getting our guys to understand that they will have more fun. The more skilled they are, the more fun they will have to play volleyball and execute more things.
Yeah, and the one thing I got to see, a mentor of mine is Ben Josephson from Trinity. And, if you watch some of the Trinity Western men's team, who are obviously top in the country, very creative they are on a lot of their plays, like not your, stereotypical old school, 51 or, shoots and stuff like that. They get really, really creative on everything they do. And you just don't see half the stuff coming because it's like, wow, never seen that before ever, And I think creativity is the driving force of the future of this game on a side of excitement for the crowd and for the players, athletes having fun, and if we can keep pushing that side of things, then maybe more sponsors come forward because it's more something that they want to put on TV a lot more than they do right now, type of thing. So Kent I might say it wrong, Lobster. When you took over the national program, did you find that there was a lack of belief that that winning was possible? Was the mental culture an area you needed to shift in order for the team to achieve the success they have had? If so, how did you go about getting the team to believe in their competitive ability?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Good question, yeah.
It was, so 2006 was the time that we started. Had been working with different national teams across the world before that, like France notably. And I had played Canada and game plan against Canada and see the weakness, obviously, when you game plan against a team. And it seemed to be that, let's serve hard and hope for the best kind of thing, And first thing, and I remember writing up the whole plan from 2006 to 2016, where basically it was learn to play the game, like learn to not make so many mistakes, not hoping that your serve is going to be hitting, you're going to go 100% every time. Sometimes we'll go 80%, but we'll be working on our block defense and our transitioning. And it was funny because the growth of the group was like that. So it was, at the beginning, I put the emphasis on skills a lot. And so I remember one of our first tour was, I think, in BC against Australia. So again, we play and we beat the Australians, and we're defending like crazy. Like all of a sudden, what we had put in place was working. So we go to World Championship 2010, and we're defending a lot, but we can't transition kill. Okay, next step, we need to work on transition kill, setting and killing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Serving was a huge aspect that we needed to catch up to the world. We're almost there, but we still need to keep going. But so when you give the guys kind of a base that they can attach on, okay, this is why you're defending, this is why you're blocking, this is why you're running the offense this way. And that gives you a base. Then the players can then be free to become creative, one thing, but also to go compete with some assurance,
Yeah.
If you don't have that, you think that just one skill or maybe two skill, our net play is good enough to beat. It might be the one day, but with rally point system now, everything counts in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, and having played and game plan against Canada, it was basically let's put the ball in the back row, let them screw it up.
Okay,
so
fair.
Skipping, rolling, play the hands and stuff because they were big and strong and in the end, so we took that when we came and then gave them that base and really worked hard at in all aspects of our game and the players bought on and then they became really confident. They started believing. That's why we started. Going after the Brazilians, going after teams that in the past we just couldn't compete with. So.
Now, you talked about serving, and earlier on in the conversation you mentioned I think you missed 9 serves in 5 sets during the Cuban game. Is there any? I mean, obviously you want perfect serving, but I mean that's unrealistic. If you're serving hard and you're serving aggressive, is there kind of a number that you guys go on, like? We want to make sure that we're always under 6 missed serves in a game, or being perfect is obviously ideal, but is there an acceptable number at the highest level?
I still to this day when I first coaching pro when I was in Paris, I was doing my performance indicators and rally point system was just coming. We're talking about 1999, 2000.
Yeah.
And so teams were used to siding out and then not losing a point. So so teams serving really hard no matter what the mistakes. They could just. And it dawned on me that if I'm able to keep, I don't know, it's just with time it came to me, no more than 7 on-4 stares per set.
Okay.
Then you're going to be on the winning side. And so I kind of took that as a reference. I trained a lot on the block defense so that we knew we couldn't we couldn't miss more than 4 serves per set, and at that time, so out of the 7 mistakes, I could make 3 only errors and everything else 4, so for a total of 7. And we ended up dominating the league in France and then winning Champions League for 4 years in a row. Not winning Champions League, only once, but the league, the French league. So, and just by keeping those principles, it created. We needed the guy had to learn to be very patient. So if you're a really good serving team and you got a really high efficiency on serving, then yeah, you can be more of a serving team. It wasn't the case for us. So at the beginning, I was very, very strict about missing serve. And let's play block defense. But we knew we needed to get to that level. Now, as far as the coefficient, I have a coefficient of 1.5, 1.6. I would have to explain what it means exactly, but it's really related to the number of errors versus the number of aces.
Okay.
And then in between is how many opportunities are you creating, like more high ball situation on the other side because we're serving well, or if we're serving tactically, like for example. If you take Graham and he served, I think, close to 20-some balls during the match against Cuba, but he was at just 1.4, which 1.5 would be your kind of grade for a really good match. Graham was under it, but we scored more points on that rotation than all the other rotations, just because the serve was in.
Right.
And we were able to play with our block defense in that rotation. So the way you have to look at it, it's the same with my club here. I have one middle that's not so efficient as far as coefficient of efficiency of serving, like really, really putting the team in trouble. But for some reason, when he's putting a serve in, we score a lot of points on that rotation. So I probably don't want him to serve, to miss too many serves because that rotation is super efficient. So, there's more than just one factor really that can influence your decision about your serving.
So we have a lot of skill level coaches from your mom and pop club who are doing it so that kids can play, to obviously university and pro coaches on here. Block defense. Can you tell us what your definition of block defense is?
Yeah. So so that was funny because so when I first came, that was one aspect that I wanted us to be a better defending team. Because I game plan against Canada, seeing that we can't take a tip or a roll. So okay, we're gonna. So basically, I needed to kind of give it. I just give it a special name called. It was called. In those days, the Floodgate System. So basically, it was your 3 blockers have to cover the areas at the net. The 3 defenders have to take whatever comes, past the blockers. We have to dig them, and then everything else is a point for the other team. And it was really simple. It's really simple when you think about it. Mm-hmm. But I had a kid telling me at one point, it was during one of the TCCs where we brought the kids in. We would take them in classroom, explain national team systems and stuff like that. And at the end of the camp, the kid came to me and says, it makes sense, that thing. So when I'm blocking, it's just not about blocking, but I'm blocking for a reason. There's somebody behind me that might dig the ball, and then
right.
Transition after that.
Yeah.
So you could see that there was that need to just give it really a basic understanding of that relationship, So sometimes in clinics, I would put coaches on the line. I would put coaches at the net, 3 blockers, 3 coaches blocking, 3 coaches defending. I would put players with a bunch of ball, and they would roll the ball to the net inside the court. So the coaches had to stop as many balls as they could. And everything that they could not stop would be a point for the other team. So it was just to illustrate that system that is. And so when you explain to a blocker what he has to do, here's the reason why you're blocking.
Right.
You want to stop the ball at the net. But if you get a deflection, and we had a really high rate of deflection against Cuba, we had 24, 25 positive deflection that were picked up by our defenders and that were replayed in transition. So those are important. So, and then same thing with the defense. So even a guy like Gavin Schmidt, we know Gav was a great server, blocker, spiker, but he was really conscious about picking up ball. He said, I don't want to be a liability in position 1. I want to be able to contribute. Everything come my way, I'm going to try to dig. So Gav wasn't the most skilled player, but he dug a lot of balls just because he knew that he was responsible for that. If the ball comes past the blocker, I got to dig it.
Okay.
That's my responsibility to the group,
Melanie from Quebec, she has a question. Play pro abroad or post-secondary school? How about both?
Yeah. Both are good, I would say. I got only a few examples with TJ and Nick, my son, and now there's a few more guys. Some guys are coming directly, but if you're going directly, you need to make sure that you end up in a situation where you have a club that can develop you. Because a lot of the pro clubs might just say, I'm paying you, you need to perform, you're supposed to be a good player. When often our players need a little bit more development. So when we see players that might want to leave early from university or even from high school, if we can, we try here to make sure that I know this coach is going to really help them develop. He's going to become a better player. Otherwise, I think it's better to go post-secondary.
Okay. Another question from Fraser here. You mentioned that our coaching has improved. Why is that? How can we as coaches take the next step to continue to develop as coaches?
Well, I think I've seen Fraser a lot in a lot of clinics and stuff. So obviously he's a guy that likes to go and learn.
Yeah.
One thing is try to network a lot. Like I tried to network last night. I was talking with a coach from from Cameroon. He's the Cameroon national team coach. He plays in France. He coaches in France, and he wanted to learn stuff on planning. I said, let's go ahead. But for me, it wasn't just me teaching him. It was I want to know what he thinks and what his opinion is about certain things. So when you can network with other coaches, it's always really, really rich. I'm reading books all the time, on volleyball and on other. I was reading Extreme Ownership now just recently.
That's a good one. Yeah.
On the Navy SEALs and stuff. Really good book. The book Legacy about rugby.
Yeah.
And so learning. There's so many little things. Yeah, great book. Great books for coaches. So I mean, continuing to network, continuing to learn. And right now we have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, totally. So, and that's what this is all about. And I'm so stoked about how many people are checked in watching this right now. It's getting more and more every week. So John is coaching university ball out in Halifax. Yeah, he's in Halifax. Can Glenn talk about how they use RPE with their athletes? What's the importance and advantages?
What with the use of
RPE, the abbreviation RPE. Let me ask him.
Yes.
I'm having a blank too.
Yeah, I've seen the. I'm having a blank too because I've seen this abbreviation before.
Sorry. Or using Newfoundland. Rate of perceived exertion.
Exertion, yeah. I guess it's funny that he's asking that. I was just reading something on that today. I was a friend of mine that's at the University of Sherbrooke. He's made a study with football players on rate of perceived exhaustion. It's actually, if you have a questionnaire, it's really good to do with athletes after.
Yeah.
After training, just to see like where they're at and what and it's their perceived exhaustion. How they feel about it, because you might learn a lot about and I think the athlete knows a lot of times, unless you perceive that the athlete is naturally very lazy, which is usually not the case, but it gives you a lot of information. We use it a lot here, and I communicate with the athletes, especially when I plan a lot. So if I'm going to plan a really hard training, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to ask after or the next day, are the legs, how are we feeling today? We should be a little tired. And the guys, at the beginning, were a little bit scared of answering. They didn't know what I was going at. But after a while, they're really, and it's actually a good way when you say, hey guys, we need to go really hard today. Like, we want to have a big practice. We want to work on certain specific things, but it's going to be also under duress and fatigue.
Yeah.
As soon as they know that, and you communicate about the perceived exhaustion, is that they're going to go hard. They're going to go and say, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. I'm going to push, and I know that tomorrow is not going to go crazy on me, and I'm going to go and risk injuries. He knows that by pushing me today, probably I will take my foot off the pedal the next day,
right,
and so on. So I think it's a good concept.
Okay. From Kent, how much just by the way, I know we scheduled for an hour here, so Glenn's joining us live from Turkey, so you're okay to go for another 10-15 minutes, Glenn?
Yeah.
Okay.
No problem.
How much time, emphasis, do you give to developing interpersonal cohesion on your teams when you have such a shortened time to train as a team?
Yeah, it's a good question. Very good question. It's actually always so just I'll address, because the question's in two parts. Like, the fact that we don't have a lot of time together, like even 4 months or 3 months in the summer, and usually now we don't train a lot. We come back and we go into VNL right away. We're on the road for 5 weeks, and then we come back home and usually have an event in the summer towards the end,
Yeah.
And we try to give the guys breakthrough there. So the first part that's important when I first came is that that's why the systems become so important, is that when the players come back, they need to have references. Like the U.S. have, we have our system. We know when we come back to that system. The Serbs are the same, or the Russians. So it was important that I would establish that we couldn't go at random, but say, okay, these are references. These are the bases that we look from a perspective of blocking, of defense, of setting, of hitting, and serving, and so that the guys they can rally around these concepts. And then obviously, usually when we come back, one thing, the guys are really happy to see each other after the pro season, because they're scattered and they've been together for so long now. And they usually, obviously, you don't have much time for more like social interaction.
Yeah.
Also, this team is getting a little bit older. Guys have families and stuff. So, but they do communicate a lot about the important things. I've noticed that now, like I'm not as and Stefan was a big part of that as well. I don't have to intervene as much, like you can see the maturity of the guys has gotten to a point where I can manage the group, help the younger guys, obviously, which need to reach that level, but they have this level of confidence and comprehension of things that make it easier for them to communicate about volleyball things, but also about things that are outside of volleyball.
Outside of volleyball, right.
Yeah.
Jeremy Stubler, question here. How often do you look at other sports to improve your own systems or ideology as a coach?
Well, you just showed Legacy. Legacy is a great book. It's on rugby, but so many of those principles you can apply. Obviously your context is different. My context is not rugby.
Yeah.
It's volleyball, but there's some concepts, psychological concepts, such like the red head and blue head, and things like that you don't necessarily bring these direct concepts back, but you're aware of these concepts, and can you repeat the question? I'm
just using other sports to improve your systems, or you as a coach.
Yeah. So the thing with volleyball, though, it's a fairly unique sport. The one I can compare it maybe to racket sport as far as like the contact and reorienting the projectile. But after that, there's not much you can compare, like high-end coordination, speed of reaction and stuff like that. You can compare this in a certain sport, but if you look at volleyball, the ball will come, so you'll be passing the ball, and then somebody else will be going to set the ball, and somebody else will going to go and hit the ball. You don't see that. You can compare it. Sometimes I talk to my setters and I said, listen, you're a quarterback trying to hit a target. Trying to hit a guy running a pattern, while your guy in 4 running the pattern, and you're backing up on the 3-meter line, you're setting. You can have some similarities, but so I use some of these similarities from a technical perspective, or to kind of give an image of what I want them to do.
Right.
But there are other aspects, it may be from a psychological point of view, where I can use, other sports. But in the end, like our sport, I find our sport is so unique. It's so hard to compare to other teams, to other sports. Like it's very, very unique.
Yeah. And other coaches that I've talked to, like Ryan Hofer and whatnot, I mean, he was actually the one that got me on that book, Legacy, and Extreme Ownership. So the other one is The Power of Habit is a really good book as well. So I'm not normally a reader, but now that I'm reading these books, it's actually, they have nothing to do with volleyball, but there's so many factors that you can use in the coaching and coaching philosophy, right? So when you want to continue, Glenn, as your, who do you look to as your mentor?
Well, Charles Cardinal was the person that followed me through my coaching formation. He's always somebody that I go back to. His specialty is planning and periodization. And big thing with Charles is that he never gave me any answers. He always made me work to find the answers.
Yeah.
And he's somebody that I have a great respect he was really the person that I would consider as my mentor, and really helped me kind of see the big picture. And the big thing is that the one thing that Charles was good at is, and I remember doing my level 4, my task 12 on planning, and I was embarrassed. And he said, okay, well, he looked at the schedule and he goes like, wow, that's crazy. You see, no classical plans, let's close the books. And then let's go through planning one season. And so he made me do in 3 days, 7 different plans, depending on what the outcome would be. And so it was an exhausting time, but that was Charles. Like, he really wanted you to find the answers, and how do you apply this? How do you apply this concept in this? Your team is tired now. What will you do when you have to play in 2 days? How do you address it? And so on. Then I would have the answers.
And I'm guessing. Did you have influence on that with Volleyball Canada regarding coaching? Because that's really implemented in a lot of the coaching courses now, is asking lead, you ask questions. We, as the evaluators, if you will, know the answer, but ask questions so that players, coaches, whoever can find the answer themselves. Is that something that you brought in?
Exactly. I'm for it. Probably I'm not the one that, because later on, at the beginning, it was really about all learning and stuff. But I read a really good book called Coaching and Mentoring. It was a Harvard Business School book, and it defines the two differences. And mentoring is really about passing tacit information. So basically, I could mentor. I do that with coaches. So we sit and we'll have a talk. And they said, "I've got this situation. What would you do?" Well, I remember I had this situation one or a similar situation. This is what I did. And then you can exchange, because obviously we don't have the same team or the same level, but by exchanging on previous experiences, maybe that coach can use some of that,
Right.
And coaching is really trying to coach a different skills, and new skills and stuff. So I thought that the way they explained the difference was really, really interesting.
Interesting. Okay. Just a couple more questions here. I know this question's a very loaded question. For me personally, I've grown over the years as a coach. I used to be more of a hothead coach, but society changes and kids change and expectations change. Kieran Reed here goes, what is your stance on punishment in a practice setting due to lack of focus, missed serves, lack of energy, whatever? I'm sure the answer is a bit, if you can answer it from like maybe a club point of view and then a point of view of where you're at right now with a pro team, I don't know if they're both the same answer or if they're different.
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. It's not an easy question to answer. I was a very fiery coach before. Like I didn't have much patience for things and had to learn patience, in the end, punishment, I think, for lack of effort or for, if the players don't realize by themselves that they will need to change, and that's what we want to reach. In the end, that's what we want them to comprehend, is that if you don't, if you see that, if you find a leader that says, hey guys, on your group is able, and I've got that in my team. I've got a guy like Joel Bravo, who's now 40, he's still my libero, he's still a leader. When he sees the guys are not pushing, then he'll step up and talk. And so that's important if you have that. If you don't have that, then we need to either find those leaders and create that dynamic, or or ahead of time, early in the season, you establish your rules. As you establish your rules, and you make people agree, maybe part of the rules or the principles of the team is that, what do we do when we're not performing well in training, when we're being lazy, or we had a hard day at school and
right.
we're not quite focused, and then try the group to get engaged so that when you intervene during that practice, they will have decided on what potential punishment can be. What I find though is that sometimes if the team, and it happened to me a couple times, if I make them do something dynamic all of a sudden, maybe a couple dives or 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 a few sprints without exhausting them. It seems like trigger a little bit of something to wake them up, just because they're a little bit lethargic.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't work.
That's fair. Well, I mean, society's changed, and old. You hear the word old school coaching, and stuff like that, and we as coaches. I mean, I don't want my players to be soft, but I also know getting the best out of them isn't necessarily yelling and screaming at them. So, you know what I mean? Like, things have changed. So, and I think everything's moving forward for the better. And this is why the sport is growing. Giovanna, Giovanna, your question 1 has already been answered earlier on in this session. So check the video after this is all done. Question 2, what do you think, how much has changed in the role of men's volleyball and defense? We know that women concentrated more so on defense more so than the men's game. Can you speak more on your focus and priorities, if you will, regarding defensive systems and stuff like that?
Yeah, for me, it's always been a big part of my game, of the way I see the game, and to this day, it's still why my teams are performing. It's still that relation between block and defense, and that kind of. This year we had a very young team, and we came well. We played the full regular season, came second, and at the beginning of the year, I said, maybe we have potential to finish 6th, but the guys really bought into the system, the block system, the serving system, the outcomes and stuff, and we're an outstanding block defense team. In the men's game, it's still, Brazil is one of the best examples of that balance. They still put a lot of emphasis on it, and you must defend, like the ball back to the block. So, for example, and I think that gradually, as we get more and more skilled players, you can see Russia now playing some really good defense at times, and they're quite big players and stuff. So Cuba, which they weren't before, although they weren't very good. They don't like when you change it up. They're pretty good but they're really good on defending hard-driven stuff. So I think it's part of the game. In rally point system, you can't neglect anything anymore. Like the game is getting better and better and better with better athletes and guys serving hard and in the court. So you need to be good at passing, guys hitting hard, and then a lot of change-ups now, a lot of throws, so guys have to be ready for the hard-driven stuff and then be ready to move. And that's why we defeated Cuba, just because they were ready for the hard-driven stuff, but they weren't really ready for, I got to hit the floor or, tip behind the center, and so on. So for me, it is a pretty important game.
Yeah,
it's a pretty important part.
And what is your take on, and you see it more in the last, let's say, in the last 5-6 years, on men tipping? It's more of a take the ball and throw it down, if you will. You see, or swiping it off the block. You see, it's way more relevant than it was 10 years ago, per se, right? So, it's a way of throwing people off. What is your take on the advantage of using that skill on the men's side?
Well, I think, if you play the patience game like we have to do against Cuba, for example, we're tipping to one or tipping short behind. If you were to look at the game again, you watch Nick, you watch Stephen Marr, you watch Ryan Slater at one point doing it, and every time we caught him, or Ryan would roll from position 2 to 1, and then we would score or put him in trouble. And these kind of shots are super important because, they throw off the defense. And if you have, when we game plan, we look also at where the weaker defenders are, or where the weaker area of defense is. So if roll is the thing that's going to score, then maybe we need to have that in our repertoire of shots.
Right.
Blockers have gotten better and better, so you see more wipes now in joust. And I don't know, there's been a lot of throw now. It's kind of limit a little bit, and we've heard that they're gonna start, calling it more and more, but I haven't seen much of a change yet.
Right. Well, Glenn, I really appreciate your time. You are a mentor to all of us here in Canada. I really appreciate that you did this live from Turkey. I hope we can do this again. But I will let you go and stay safe. You and your family. Say hi to Nick, and we'll chat soon.
All right. Take care, everybody in Canada. It was a great experience for me, and yeah, let's do it again. And people keep working. You're the reason we're successful. So and I thank you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Glenn. Stay safe. All right, coaches. That's all for today. Appreciate everyone that tuned into this. Next Friday, we have Ryan Hofer from Trinity Western University women's team joining us. We got Ben Josephson coming down the line. We got Rick Scott. We got Doug Reimer, and more to come. So look forward to chatting with all those coaches. So we're going to usually try to do these on Thursday or Friday, just do one a week type of thing. Hope everyone stays safe, and we'll see you guys soon.